How's it going, everybody? This is Pastor Chris coming to you with your Corin Talk today, May the 21st, as we continue on our journeys of encouragement and hope during this time. I ran across an interesting thought that I kind of wanted to share with you. A thought about what are we supposed to do as we are trying to maintain our relationships with God, but also at the same time trying to be involved and help with our community when there are many rules and situations kind of pushing us in different directions. So, as you may know, polite conversation is supposed to not include politics or religion, and I've got a twofer for you today. I wanted to start with a passage from the Epistle to the Ephesians, starting in chapter 4, which says, "Therefore I, a prisoner for serving the Lord, beg you to lead a life worthy of your calling. For you have been called by God. Always be humble and gentle. Be patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults because of your love. Make every effort to keep yourselves united in the Spirit, binding yourselves together with peace. For there is one body and one Spirit, and just as you have been called to one glorious hope for the future." Beautiful passage. Talking about being together, talking about our joining together and how important it is as a community to be connected, to be one as we approach the tasks in front of us. But it's kind of obvious in these days, I feel like I probably don't have to tell you, that we're not one. We're not particularly united in our call for what is supposed to be going forward. And the simple reason for that is different ideas and different fears, different prejudices, different ideas about what it is that we are called to be and to do. And this puts us as community at ends, at odds with each other, where we are fighting over sometimes what is trivial things and other times things that are deeply sacred and important to us. And it's important to remember that our connection to our community is just as involved and just as important as our commitment to God and our ability to connect with God and share in that hope. These two things are not vastly different arenas in which we are trying to interact with different entities. God created us and put us into community. And so it is our community that connects us, encourages us to find God. And those two things are deeply important and connected. But how do we do that? How do we find the time? How do we find the ability to be able to connect with our brothers and sisters here in Rice Lake, in Barron County, in Wisconsin, in the world? How do we do that kind of connection with people who seem to be so much at odds with everything that we believe in and feel? The answer isn't simple. And the answer, as you may have guessed, follows a similar line of Christ, who Christ came to us to save us, to lead us back to a relationship with God. And what he encountered on that path was betrayal, was punishment, was sacrifice that he made and that we made in order to build those kind of lines together. And so, when we encounter people who are at odds with us, when we encounter people who believe things that are vastly different from what we believe, we are called by God to be, as Scripture tells us, always be humble and gentle. Be patient with each other. Make allowances for each other's fault because of your love. And make every effort to stay united. Our community is as strong as the weakest member of it. And I'm guessing that many of us see different people as the weakest member. And that's a good thing. We're called to reach out and help and encourage and lift up those people as best we can. When we really have the opportunity to take off, when we really have the opportunity as individuals and as a community to quote unquote fly, it's because we are beating these two wings together at the same time. We have our own personal relationship with God, which revolves around prayer, which revolves around reading scripture, which revolves around dedicating our hearts to God's purpose. And we also have the other wing, which is charity, which is the call of God to go out and help those around us. And if you've ever seen any bird fly, you need both wings beating at once. You need to be helpful to your community. You need to be reaching out to those in need. You need to encourage and support and strengthen all the binds that are around us, while at the same time going out and praying and honestly calling on God for help in times of trouble. So what does this look like in all practicality? Well, it looks like that if you see a politician doing something that you disagree with, if you see a community leader leading people down a poor connection, down a poor pathway, if you see local people in your community making, in your opinion, horrible mistakes, you pray for them. You pray for them. And you pray not that God will strike them down, not that God will necessarily change their path, but that God will love them and comfort them and reach out to them in their times of trouble. With humility and gentleness, pray for the people around you. God calls us to picket, to complain, to raise up holy hell in defense of people who need defending. But he also calls us to pray. So if you find that your opponents, your enemies, if you find that you're complaining more than you're praying for them, do you really want hope? Do you really want change? Do you really want things to be any better? And maybe a harder statement is, are you really following the path that Christ has set out for us? These are convicting words, especially for myself, and I hope that you find them to be filled with grace, because we have been promised a great and glorious future, one hope for everybody. And if we really take ourselves to task and do better, then we might see that become realized today. Peace of Christ be with you, and remember, if you need help, please call.